Okay, and I will call this session of the Board of Revision to order. My name is Mark Goreski. I will be chairing the session today. With me are Brent McIntyre and Lori Davidson. Our secretary today is Michelle Neepin. The assessor is Maureen Tenawara. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to the assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are recorded and will be part of the public record. Could we have the swearing in, or the affirmation rather, I suppose, of the parties, please?
Can you state your full name, please? Morina Vandika. Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Can you state your full name, please?
Jared Story.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
So the first item on our agenda today is 3332 Portage Avenue, the business assessment. Ms. Tenawara, could you proceed, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property address 3332 Portage Avenue. Business assessment ID 33719. Business name Northwest Company. And owner, sorry, it's a mistake in here. Business name Giant Tiger Store Limited. Owner is the Northwest Company. So this business was used $8.75. Though some model driven rent we originally used, and our total ARV calculated originally $229,620. Today I'm making a recommendation to reduce the rent using $8.30 based on the comparables. The comparables are the same similar type of businesses. Comparables vary from $8.37 to $12, but my recommendation based on $8.30 per square feet plus occupancy cost. Total revised ARV is $220,380. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Questions, panel members?
I have none.
I have none either. Thank you.
And I appreciate the recommendation, but I would like to continue.
All right.
Okay.
Take this one.
Okay. So just in terms of the original base rent of $875 and now $830, this is based on modeling, correct? As opposed to a rent in place?
Yeah, it's a kind of research on the comparables, and it's the lowest rent is $8.37.
Okay.
Then we go with $830.
And these are, I notice here that two of these leases are shorter term. And one of them, lease comp 4, that wouldn't actually cover the reference date. So at any rate, I suppose my question is, you're aware that there is a market rent on this premise, correct?
It's $7, yes.
So, okay, so at the reference date, the market rent was $7, correct?
That's the lease rent, that's the agreed rent, net rent,
Okay.
or contract rent is $7.
Would you
It's
agree?
not the market rent.
Would you agree then that the contract rent at the reference date is perhaps the best indication of value for this space?
This lease signed in 2004.
Right.
And it's a longer lease for 25 years. So we thought we kind of agree the rent increase within the period. That's why.
And would you agree that grocery stores or larger retailers such as Giant Tigers tend to sign longer term leases?
It's a natural thing.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I skipped over you and went to the wrong side of the table first.
That's okay.
Did that prompt any questions?
I just have one. Was the realty appeal?
Was the realty appeal? Yes, it was. Yes, and I'll get to that in my presentation. Okay.
Okay. Jared,
Sure.
your information?
Yeah. Okay, so once again, this is a Giant Tiger store, 332 Portage Avenue. Leasable area of 20,500 square feet. The assessment department is modeling 229,620 prior to the recommendation. We're suggesting that a rate of $209,100 is more appropriate. And this is indeed based on the contract rent that was in place at the reference date. So if you turn to my page.
Right, can you give me the number again, the 200?
Oh yeah, it was, I think it's 209,100.
209.
Yes. So again, this the realty on this premise was appealed. Our position was accepted in full. If you go to my page 4, and I've actually included the entirety of our realty brief just to show you how our methodology is worked here. We use $775 per square foot, and we did this because, as the assessors rightly pointed out, it is a slightly older rent. It was signed in 14, but there was a step that was occurring. And that was in February of 19. So we figured that was slightly after the reference date, but it was stepping up to $775 per square foot. So we deemed it appropriate to use $775 in our calculation. Of course, the occupancy costs are not disputed for the purposes of this submission. So when we take our occupancy costs with our base net rent of $7.75, we once again come to a final value of $209,100. And again, this is consistent with the outcome of the realty appeal, which I do not believe was contested by the city of Winnipeg. Barring any questions, that's my presentation. Thank you.
Ms. Tinawara,
I don't have questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
panel member?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
I have no questions either, thanks.
None here either. Okay, thank you. We will then proceed to 837 Cavalier Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 837 Cavalier Drive is the address, and business ID 43140. Business name Food Fair. This property has permit area of 11,734 square feet. Our original base rent per ARV $10.57, which is today I'm asking to confirm the value as it is. Annual rental value as it is as $152,760. This went to the realty, and the realty we use the exact same rental rate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We are requesting confirmation of this appeal, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any questions? No. Okay. Moving then to 951 Henderson Highway.
Thank you. Property address 951 Henderson Highway. Business assessment ID 405. Property is Boyd Auto Body and Glasses. And this property has the Permits area of 11,180. Base ARV is $16.87. This property has a reported net rent of $17. When it went to Board of Revision Realty, we used the exact rent as $16.87, which is model driven. Today, I am asking to confirm the value as it is $216,000. Thank you.
And we are accepting the confirmation on this assessment as well.
$1901 Main Street.
Thank you. Business ID 27847. Business address 1901 Main Street. Property owner K4 Properties Inc. This property has 3 levels of premises. One is in the main floor. The second one is the second floor. And the third premise is in the back of the property. It's the rear portion of the business area. So we use the different trades for this property. And also it has a renovation, considerably good renovation, recent renovation in there. So that's why we use the different rents also. The property comparables are there. Property comparables within the region. Highest comparable is $13.90, lowest in $11. This property has an overall rent of $10.98. Today I'm making a recommendation using 3 different rents. The first portion, the premise number 1, $9.50. Second floor is $7.50, and the back of the building rear portion is $5. Overall revised ARV is reduced to 91,140. And also one thing to mention, the air conditioning in the main floor, the original value is 1 square foot, but they apply for permit, air conditioning HIV permit not recently, it's 3-4 years ago. And I changed it to full building is air conditioned. That's why occupancy cost change, original to recommendation. But considering all the changes, my recommendation to revise 91,140. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Story?
Thank you for the recommendation, but I would like to proceed with this the appeal. Okay, so in terms of my my questions, have you ever visited this property?
No.
Okay. Are you aware then that the 4,000 square feet is actually a storage area?
Yeah, it's a back of the building.
Right.
That's why it's a $5 lease.
Okay, so no, you've got it at 950. That's the issue.
No, 950 the main first portion, front portion, and the back portion is 2,800, which is $5.
Okay. So I visited this property, and I will suggest that there's a main floor office and a second floor office,
yes,
and they have roughly the same footprint. So that's the 2,100 square feet and the 2,800 square feet. The back area is an old storage area. This used to be a car dealership. So the back area is actually a storage area. It's got one loading door off of Royal Avenue. I was just there. So I think there might be something, perhaps that's where our discrepancy lies here, but I would suggest that back area is actually storage space. And I've got photos here. I apologize, I printed these from remotely, and they came out sort of blurry, black and white. I sent from home to my work computer, so a miracle that it worked at all, actually. But you can sort of see on page 7 here, the larger area of the footprint. That is indeed the storage space. That's Royal and Main. That's the sort of Jefferson, Seven Oaks area. There's that one little, there's a loading door there. So you can see that that's clearly the larger space. So I think maybe that's where our discrepancy is coming about. Okay, and I suppose my last question is, these are modeled rents. These are not derived. Of course, this is an owner-occupied space, so this is all based on modeling, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, and I suppose the last question, are you aware that the The same owner owns the building next door. It's very similar, and they do have a lease in place for that very comparable building.
That's the void or turbo.
It's being used by Piston Ring currently.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
I know.
And are you aware of the rent in that space?
But it's a totally different use.
Okay, those are my questions. Thanks.
Questions?
Just one, this is the Old Eastern Sales,
Yeah.
dealership.
Yeah.
That was all my
You're
comment.
not dating yourself there, are you? Ms. Davidson?
I just have one question. When I look at the assessor's base ARV per square foot, the main area, the one that's 4,000 plus square feet, she's lowered it to 950.
Right.
And the second one, she's lowered it to 750.
Right.
But on yours analysis, the main area, you're showing $5 per square foot. Like you're showing the main area at a lower rent than the second.
No, I'm showing the 2,100 square feet at 975.
Oh,
They're sort of in an odd order.
I
noticed
see.
this last
Yeah, they're
night,
just reversed order.
Yeah, so it's the top floor, we're agreeing with the $5 per square foot. It's typical that that would be half the rate of the main floor. But in the original workup by the assessor, the storage space was $11 per square foot, which didn't make sense. We used $5. Storage space of that quality is usually 3 to 5. If we're finding out now that it is indeed air conditioned, which is news because on the site it actually shows that it's not air conditioned. So 3 to 5 would be a range. I've used 5, so I think I'm comfortable with that if the space is indeed air conditioned.
Okay, I understand that, makes sense. Just, because I'm
We're
obviously mixed up.
We're merging
Sorry, Mary.
things here a little bit, the evidence and questions. We're all rusty here.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Ms. Davidson, did you have any questions for Ms. Tinawara on her information?
Well, it's kind of on both because when I look at the main area, that's 4,130 square feet, right?
Yes, that's what I found out too. Then I'm not 100% sure about my presentation for based on 4,130 in my my information in the system showing it's a front portion of the building,
Right.
but applicant's information showing it's a back portion of the building. But I haven't inspected the property, then I cannot very tell it's confirmed this is the front or confirm this is back. I cannot tell like that.
So then, so what I think I hear you saying is that the 4,130 is the right square feet, but there's a discrepancy in terms of where it is. And that reflects the difference in the rent.
Yes,
So it looks reversed.
yes,
but you're
exactly.
saying it's not
I think
the
you
main.
can see it in the photos that it's the back end of the storage space is larger than the office space. And that's the 4,000 square feet, whereas the office space is main floor, second floor, and those are 2,100 and 2,800 square feet respectively.
Would that, for the assessor, that would make a difference though, where it's located, what rent you would use?
Yes, if it's actually, it's a 4,000, if I can confirm that the 4,130 is a back storage area, I would use the $5 per square feet. But unfortunately, I cannot confirm without seeing any building plans or the inspection, because there is a discrepancy. We did not talk about this particular discrepancy before. Then I did not get a chance. I know one Reimer architecture firm did the renovation recent, and they are the one apply for the HVAC and everything. I did check the permits, but I never went through checking thoroughly about what is the main.
So
Front
that's why I
portion.
visited the property.
So that's your main
When
argument
when you
then.
see the property,
Yeah,
you see
we, both of us, I think,
Flipped.
Yeah,
flip.
right, okay, thank you.
Any further information,
no.
testimony then?
Oh, further testimony? Yeah. So just very quickly again, this is 1901 Main Street, Jefferson, Seven Oaks neighborhood, best described as a 2-story office building with warehouse space at the back. Again, the warehouse space is one small loading door that's accessible only from Royal Avenue, and important to note that the premise has no parking to its own. It's currently owner occupied by a property management company. Original construction is 1957, with some renovations that occurred sometime in, I believe it's between 14 and 16. So as I sort of alluded to in my cross-examination, the property next door is owned by the same owner and the buildings are actually conjoined. So I think the best indication for the market rent to that type of space in that area, though they do have a little bit of parking, is $9.75. That's what the rent is next door. So we use $9.75 for the main floor. We did not dispute the $5 second floor lease rate. That seems appropriate given that standard industry practice would say half of the main floor for second floor finished or good quality basement space. And then again, the warehouse space, just based on our best bet. It's interesting because there's not a lot of warehouse space down this part of North Main. It's very difficult. We don't want to start looking to the Inkster Industrial Park or anything like that. So we thought, well, as a $3 to $5 is appropriate and reasonable, and I skew to the high side of that with $5. So with all those points taken into consideration, the current 2020 business assessment is $99,120, and we are suggesting that once we correct that square footage and apply appropriate rates, we come to $74,100. That is my submission.
Ms. Tenor, question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my first question, you mentioned about that the second floor area is the half rate use in your recommendation, but this is not the mezzanine. This is a full second floor. Is
Right.
it true? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm agreeing with your rate on that. So we're not disputing the $5 on that, right?
Okay, you are agreeing to $7.50?
No, I'm agreeing to the $5 that you used.
$5 is my back portion of the building. The storage rent is $5.
Right, but again, we're not in agreement as to what part of this is storage and what part of this is office. I visited this property.
But
I know that
second-
the 4,000 square feet is the storage
No,
space.
I mean about the second floor. Second floor, you agreed 2,800 square feet?
Yes, and we're saying that's $5 per square foot, right?
Yeah, do you have any print comparables for $5 to show?
No, I'm not contesting it, so I'm agreeing with you.
I'm agreeing with, you agree with my $7.50 for second
No,
floor rent?
for the 2,800 square feet, I'm agreeing with $5.
Oh no, this is totally mismatch because that's the way if we talk about this property, I know the unfortunate thing about the permits area, we have mismatch information here.
Right. You can actually look at the building and see though that it would be impossible.
Yeah,
Can we clarify, looking at the premise IDs, exactly which of the three sections we're talking about?
Yeah.
9488 is actually the back one-story area with the loading
Yes,
bay
with one loading door.
door. 32590. Now, is that the second floor or the
Main
first
floor.
floor?
Main floor.
That's the main floor. And then the last one would be the second floor. And how is it that the second floor is 700 square feet larger than the main floor? Can either of you answer that, just to make sure that we've got the...
Yeah, no, I'm not sure, but they appear to be, there may be more interior hallways on the main floor. This is GLA, not necessarily actual footprint.
Okay.
So there could be a stairwell, there could be vertical penetrations. I'm not sure. The second floor could be more open. That's possible. That's most likely, actually, if there's a vestibule or something
add a
like that.
little
Yes,
bit
please.
to this one? Because this is a single occupant property, then we don't use the common area element because we use the footprint as if it's a multi-tenant building, we remove the common area and all of those. This is a single.
So this is the footprint.
This is the, yeah, that's the problematic question I cannot answer. But honestly, I cannot confirm about the total footprint for the building.
Right, okay.
With my knowledge, but I can confirm my recommendation for main floor first front portion is $9.50 based on the comparables, and second floor is $7.50, and the back of the storage is $5 per square feet. That's how I driven my recommendation with the hierarchy where the building is located and the based on recommendation comparables. So unfortunate thing, I cannot confirm the area.
And Mr. Story, you're saying 975 and 5.
Right, and just not to belabor this, but if you do look at the actual building, and again, I apologize for the quality of the photo, but you can see that the back area is substantially larger in the office section. So I think and I've been by this building a number of times, and for the purpose of this exercise today, I did visit the property in the last week or so just to make sure, because I saw that and I thought, okay, I sort of anticipated this issue would come up. So I can confirm to you, and you can see in the photos that back area is indeed the larger space, the larger premise.
And therefore, sorry, but just again to clarify this, I know I'm jumping in here, but
Yeah.
You agree that one floor is 2,100 and the other floor is 2,800?
Yes. Okay. And again, just not to belabor this, but on page 8, there's a good view from the back where you can see the scale of the building in the larger back. Again, it was a car dealership, and then later on it was a used vehicle dealership of all sorts, and that's consistent with that style of construction.
Yeah, looking at the picture of this building, I somewhat agree 4,130 might be the back portion, back storage. Then I'm going to check once I go back to office and correct this one for the next reassessment cycle. That's what I'm going to do. But till I consider this one, if you see this building, it seems to be same size, both of the second floor and first floor. I'm going to check if those ones, but 2,800 could be. It's really hard to check.
700 square
check in
feet
this
could be
one.
a vestibule.
Yeah,
stairwell. That's
yeah.
that's almost certainly what it probably is.
Yeah, it's
In my opinion, yeah.
And the last question to Mr. Story, you don't provide any rental comparables here. The property you talk about, the piston ring, is the owner-occupied building in the next door, but it's totally different use for this business, as this business. This one is the...
Well, it's actually, it's not owner-occupied, so it would have been furnished for a tenant. They would have the way that a piston ring works is they have that front counter with parts and whatever, so it would be finished. I think that generally the quality of the space would be reasonably comparable.
Do you agree we cannot consider that one as a comparable because of it is not the rent comparable and it is...
You do recognize that I'm suggesting a higher rent for the main floor than you are, right? I'm suggesting 975 and you're at 970, so.
I agree.
Okay.
For that reason.
Okay.
Mr. McIntyre?
I have no questions.
Ms. Davidson?
No questions, thank you.
I think we've exhausted this one.
Oh, can I just ask
Oh,
one thing?
certainly.
You probably mentioned this, but when you said you visited most recently, did you visit the inside or just
No, I
the
didn't.
exterior?
During this whole,
But
there's been a lot of exterior, not a lot of
Thank you.
interiors. Yeah.
All right. Moving on to 1186 Main Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property address 1186 Main Street, business assessment ID 22765. Is owner and operate as the McDonald's Restaurant of Canada Limited. Property for original valuation, we use $31.11 as per square foot rent. Today, I'm making a recommendation to reduce to $31 per square feet. Base ARV is reduced to $90,990. This is based on the recommended comparables for the McDonald's. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And we are accepting the recommendation.
Sorry, what did you say you reduced the ARV to?
90,900.
Thank you.
Uh, 247 Selkirk Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property address 247 Selkirk Avenue. Business assessment ID 26179. Owner and operate as a Guns Homemade Cake and Pastry Limited. This is a owner-occupied property. Overall ARV per square feet is $7.72. And today I'm asking to confirm the value ARV as it is, which is 61,860. Thank you.
Story.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Just questions. Have you visited this property?
This one, no.
No, okay. Did you check the building details to ensure that they were correct when we're looking at the premise ID? Did you notice any discrepancies there?
Premise area, discrepancy. As areas are different than US and mine.
So we can talk about that after, but I think we're really just talking about the discrepancy in area. So those are my questions. I'll cover my section of my presentation. Thank you.
Mr. McIntyre, questions?
I have no questions.
Ms. Davidson?
I have no questions.
Just to confirm, you're saying that it was $596, $1.75, $772? Was that the overall number that you gave? Or?
My recommendation, 61,860. It's the original one I'm asking to confirm.
Right. And that's a combined 772?
Yes, combined, the overall rated.
Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Storr.
Thank you. Okay, this is of course Gunn's Bakery, Selkirk Avenue, appropriately known as the North End. This is a sort of an institution. It's been here since sometime in the mid-1930s. Now, what's interesting here is I don't disagree with the model to rent. This is a owner-occupied building at the time of, well, it is now and it was then. It's an owner-occupied building. What became interesting to me is, and I visited this property a number of times throughout my life and a fair bit recently, and I've been inside and out to be certain I patron the business. What struck me was when I was looking at the premise area, something didn't seem right to me. So I went to, if you look at the last page of my brief, this is from the city's commercial detail section for the property. And you can see that we have two buildings here effectively. The first building is built in 1924 and it's got 1,917 square feet. So that's what I'm going to call the retail area. That's where the original bakery was. And it has a basement of 293 square feet. Now, just for the sake of argument, I have included that in the gross leasable area, though typically a smaller basement like this would probably not command the same rate as the main floor. But for the purpose of this assignment, I did include it in what I'll call the retail area. Now, in 1980, there was an addition built, and we're going to call that the wholesale area. And you can see here that that's 4,791 square feet. And again, it has a small basement. That's those 300 square foot basements are usually sort of a crawl space or a storage or cold storage space, but I have included it here because I didn't have a chance to go in the basement. So with all those points considered, if you go to my page 3, I've adjusted the workup so that the square footage is corrected. I'm not disputing the 596 for the retail area, and I'm not disputing the $1.75 on the wholesale area, but I have corrected the square footage so that it does match the building details. So that gives us a total ARV for the purpose of this assessment cycle of $51,960. Thank you very much.
Mr. Navarro?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Mr. Story, I know this property. I had many years for retail assessment. It never brought up this issue before. For the area it's wrong.
Yeah,
I'm aware about this property, even though I haven't inspected the property.
Right.
I'm very aware about this property, how it built and what pieces added later and those kind of information. So this is the first time you should, but this main area of 1,917 plus main area of 4,791 is, when I add these two numbers, it's equal to 6,708.
Right, but what I think you're doing is you're adding the original retail area, the original store was.
We consider as the main floor area. even though it's the retail or the wholesale area. If we consider main floor as a 6,000.
And so, excuse me, you haven't been inside this premise?
No.
Oh, okay, well, if you're inside, you can see that there's a main retail area and then a large, I don't want to call it a commissary, but it's a bakery. It's a large bakery at the back part of it. It's a very small counter at the front where they do their retail sales for their, your sort of guy coming in off the street like me.
Yes,
Buying stuff, and then
yes.
there's the commercial kitchen at the back where they fulfill orders for restaurants and suppliers.
If I add a little bit for that answer, because that's why we use the extremely low rental rate of $5.96 than the combined rent of higher rent for the retail and the lower rent for the bakery. We don't use this one, but overall we use a very low rent for the entire main floor. With knowing the operation is different, they have a smaller.
Well, the area is not without its issues either, and it also has parking issues. In fact, they have to own 2 properties across the street for overflow parking. So it's the fact that the model rents, you're saying they're low. I think they're just appropriate for the nature of the business, the area, and some of the challenges that are here. But I will suggest that the building that was built in the 20s is very much distinct from the addition that was built in the 1980s. So I have adjusted for those reasons.
That's all my question.
McIntyre?
I have no questions.
David?
I have a question just to clarify this. So you're indicating that the dispute is simply on the square footage, the area, not on the rental value or the
The lease rates are appropriate. They're modeled as minimum or occupied for.
Right. So you also mentioned that the information you got on the square footage was off the city's website?
Yes, yeah, it's part of the building details under the My Properties tab.
So, yeah, so then I guess this is kind of for both, but so if this is on the city's website, like I was trying to follow your discussion, why are your numbers different then?
Actually, my number is not different. The main floor area, if you add that 1,917 plus 4,791 is the permiss area of 6,708. That's the main floor area. It's correct because it is built in 2 different years.
But the totals are different.
Total is correct.
No, but your total is 8,000.
No, we need to consider main floor. Main floor 6,708 means the main floor area is 1,917 plus main floor area of 4,791. Altogether is 6,708. My area is correct in the main floor, but the second floor is the basement is the out permits. That's the one in this website shows the different numbers than our permits. I need to check it. And this website is sometimes it has a glitches. This is a public website. I cannot speak 100% for what is in the public website. We usually don't visit the public website that much. We go to inside external website. I will check when I go there. But main floor area is correct.
If I may just say one thing,
Sorry, just one more question. So is the configurations you set out used in the realty appeal or
I'm not sure.
Maybe you didn't appeal it, but
I'm
in
not
the
sure.
realty assessment?
I did not do the realty assessment for this year. I did the realty assessment, I think last year with the Walters Group different agent, but this issue never brought up. Then I did not aware about the discrepancy in the area, but that process of reviewing the property, I get to know about this property building part of different years and it has the different portions and everything. I'm aware about the retail portion, bakery portion, storage portion on the basement. Those things I aware.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I will say I'm very familiar with this property. I've been there a number of times. The storage is actually there's an older building that's one parcel over that they're using for cold storage, and that building's from the 1930s. But if you picture Gunn's Bakery, when you walk in, there's a counter, there's baked goods kind of all around you. It's pretty tight actually. It's a bit of and it gets busy. So and then there's an office off to the side, and then a smaller working area, and then a large bakery at the back. So that 2,000 square feet, the way that it's broken down here makes sense. And it is, again, corroborated by the city's building details, which I believe were actually generated by permits, are they not?
I need to check because this website sometimes we have problems with
Fair enough.
and everything.
Okay.
I have more questions about the layout of this. When I look at the photo in Mr. Story's information, I get the impression that this is two structures, side by side. Are each of those structures one story or are they 1 and 2 stories?
It's one story and it has the mezzanine in the, I think it's a level building. It's not the one floor level in there. It's the two structures
It's 2 structures.
built in two different
And so the
areas.
square area that you provided for the 2 structures is the area all the way to the back, front to back. It's 2 structures, front to back.
Yeah, just the floor area.
One of them has a mezzanine, you say?
As I remember, all the mezzanine, or it's kind of, if you're familiar, I haven't been inside, but it's a step up a little bit to go, or something like
It's a
that.
higher ceiling in the, what I'm calling the whole-sale area. The ceiling is, I think, 16 feet as opposed to 12, which is the main building or something like that.
But the wholesale area
Mhm.
is what I see as the taller building here.
Right, that's the
Taller
addition that was built
structure.
in 1980.
And where is the retail sales portion? In the taller building or the lower building?
All in the front area here, so
All of it. It runs the.
It's just
it runs the
runs
2 structures.
it runs across both. Yeah, so this building was originally, I don't believe it was built as a bakery, quite frankly. It was built in 1924, just a small Selkirk Avenue shop. The Gunn family took it over in 37, and then in 1980 they built this larger addition so that they would have more capacity for baking. But the retail area as well. But the retail area is sort of a long, narrow shotgun area. There's a small office on the left side when you walk in, and then the majority of the property is actually a commercial bakery. That's
Okay.
Yeah.
So you clarified that the retail area spans both structures.
Right.
Although one of those structures has a higher wall height than the other one. Why are there 2 premises here?
I think the other one is a basement permit.
Sorry?
Basement permit. That's why it's a $1.97. $1.
The basement has,
It's a 1,305. It is the basement permit.
that gets a separate premise.
Yeah, separate
ID.
permits, ID. Because it's an unoccupied single occupant there, we use the basement also for the business assessment. Sometimes we remove those ones, but this property we see as using an overall lower rent to
Okay.
justify the building.
And so the second premise ID is the basement that spans beneath both structures.
I don't think so. I
No.
think it's in only the old one.
Only the old
Old
one.
one only.
Okay. And then the first premise ID at you have at a rent of $596
Yes.
covers both a retail area and a wholesale area.
Mm.
That's what Mr. Story has called it. I would probably describe it myself as the retail area and then the bake shop
Yes.
behind it, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And those are given the same rent. Both the
Yes.
retail area and the bake shop area are given the same rent.
Yes, that's right. We use the lower rent go as good as.
Okay.
Because it's really hard to separate what is the retail area and what is the actual bakery. It's like a big storage warehouse. Then storage warehouse has a storage area and the warehouse area. We often use the same rental rate, but we consider about which portion used for the storage, which portion used for the selling goods. This is the same concept here.
Mhm.
It's really hard to divide many pieces to this is storage, this is the retail, this is the bakery, and this is something else. we use the exact same rent here, overall blended, lower rent. We consider main floor and the basement.
Okay.
That's the concept behind it.
All right.
Thank you.
I think we've gotten to the point of your information, Mr. Story, if there's anything left.
No, I think
know already.
I think we've said it all. So I think we just have a general discrepancy between the square footage, and again, it is corroborated by the building details, and I'm inclined to believe that those are actually accurate. So
I will check. I will check both of those information when I go to office first thing.
Mr. McIntyre, any other
I
questions? or
I have no
statements?
questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we are coming to 436 Main Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property address 436 Main Street. Business assessment ID 52417. Business name Palomino Club. Business owner 722543 Manitoba Limited. This property we use overall rent as $15.86, which is include the occupancy cost. Base ARV per square feet, we use $13.41. The property lease is considerably newer lease, signed in December 1st, 2017 for $37.94 per square feet. I could not find the exact same kind of use comparables here, but the size wise and the use somewhat similar. The rental rates vary from $16.19 to $13. I'm asking today to confirm the ARV as $90,480. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Story.
yeah, just a few questions. Now, first off, this is the currently uses the Palomino Club on Main Street. Are you aware that that's a Class 2 heritage building?
Yes.
And do you suppose that a heritage building, some of the rules around owning a heritage building may preclude certain types of tenants from renting that space? It may narrow the pool of potential tenants. Would you agree with that?
I know a restriction about demolitions and stuff. I did not hear those kind of one. You might try it. I'm not aware.
There's certain alterations. We can agree that there are certain alterations that cannot be done.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay. So in terms of your comps, are any of these heritage buildings?
Oh no,
Are any of them nightclubs?
no. I mentioned before. I could not find any of the very similar type of
And this one on Bannatyne, is that a restaurant?
I think yes.
Okay. And Rory, that's a restaurant as well, or what is that?
I can't exactly tell
Okay.
which operation. I can't remember.
And are you aware that the city's suggestion for the BA this year constitutes a 51.5% increase over the last cycle?
Can you explain it again?
Yeah, in the last cycle, the BA was 51.5% lower than what the city is suggesting in this cycle. So I'm wondering if there's any market evidence that would support such an increase for this premise.
I don't know. I'm not aware about anything like that.
Okay. And in the realty appeal of this property, are you aware that the city applied a blended rate over the entirety of this subject of $9 per square foot?
I did not know.
Okay. Those are my questions.
McIntyre?
I have no questions.
David?
I have no questions either, thank you.
Neither do I. Mr. Story.
Okay, thanks again. So we're at 436 Main Street again. This is a 3-story building that is currently being used. There's a number of, the third floor isn't being used right now. The second floor is a recording studio, and the main floor is a nightclub, as we all know. It's classified as grade 2 historic, and it was listed in 1997. Of course, the original purpose, this is one of the original buildings from Bankers Row. So the original purpose was to be a bank, built in 1903, and the city has applied an effective age of 1960. The improvement has a total leasable square footage of 18,272, but we are looking at the main floor retail space. So the subject's property's ARV applied by the city for this cycle is based on $13.41 per square foot. And again, as I referenced, this would constitute an increase of 51.5% over the previous cycle, and we don't believe that that's justified by the market. Now, as part of the realty appeal, we did accept the city's blended rate of $9 per square foot over the entirety of the building, and we do continue to apply that rate to the subject. So when we apply that, this brings us, just for interest's sake, to an increase of approximately 9% cycle over cycle, which seems, though potentially high for a neighborhood average, that seems to be in the ballpark. So when we apply that $9 per square foot as a base net ARV, we come to a rounded ARV for this realty cycle of $65,280. So again, the current assessment is $90,480, and we are suggesting that a more appropriate rate is $65,280. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have some questions. Mr. Story, what do you know about their contract rent of $37.94?
I don't know. Sorry, $34 and
$37.94 is they are paying actually $37.94
and
per square feet.
does that include the parking lot that's part of this property?
That's what I asked you. What do you know?
Yeah, I believe that has something to do with the patio as well as the parking lot. So I don't think that would be a huge rental rate for a nightclub in a historic building downtown. So I think that that's probably not indicative of market value for the space. I think that likely has something to do with the adjacent parking lot.
And also, do you mention about the city recommend for $9 per square feet?
I'm sorry.
Do you mention about the City of Winnipeg Assessment Department? Assessment Department's recommendation is $9 per square.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Sorry, you know what? I may have misspoke there. The $9 was what formed the basis of our appeal. If you go to page 6 of my brief, you can see that the original realty assessment was $1.7 million. Based on a blended net rent of $9, we requested, I believe it's $1.2 million, and the assessment was reduced to $949,000. And that's because at the hearing, a portion of the parking was deducted from the assessment of the main holding. I'm not sure if this decision was appealed by the city, but I do know, and I note in our evidence here on page, let's tell you, where are we here? Well, if you just do the math here, the net rent per square foot that we blended across the entirety of the 18,000 square feet is $9, and that was accepted by the board with a further reduction for the parking. So we just asked that the BA follows the realty, and you'll see too that 50% increase we saw that on the realty as well, and now we're seeing it on the BA. So we're just asking that those two be brought in line with one another.
I have a question. For the BA, leasable area, realty, leasable area is 18,272
Right.
times $9 per square
That's
feet.
the blended rate across the.
Blended rate.
Right.
But today we are talking about the 5,705 square feet by $13.41.
Right.
But it is a
Sorry.
do you agree there is a discrepancy in your $9 per square feet?
No, I think the $9 per square foot is an appropriate blended rate for
18,272
I think
square feet.
every premise in this building
Yeah,
commands
because-
a market rent of $9 per square foot. I think that's
Okay,
a
because
appropriate
this
number.
property, once we license the business for the business assessment, we don't include all the basement areas and all of the
Right.
floors. That's why we have a lower square foot area in
Yeah, no, I
here.
understand that's a different premise, but I'm saying that you wouldn't likely lease this building and lease the third floor only, or you would lease it in its entirety.
Yeah.
And so a $9 blended rate makes sense to me.
Then my suggestion, my question: do you think is it fair to use the $9 here, because that is not the lease area for the realty, because we cannot apply realtor rental rate here directly the way it's licensed in this bill.
I think I understand what you're saying, and what I'm saying is that $9 per square foot is the appropriate blended rate for all the premises in this building. I think 1341, that sounds more like maybe a restaurant rent. That's too high, and I think as evidenced by some of these rents that you're suggesting, I think that's maybe where things are getting a little bit become a bit questionable.
Okay, if
$9 per square foot across the entirety of this leasable area, including this premise, makes sense to me. And that's what I believe is
Okay.
appropriate.
I have one thing to ask you.
Mhm.
When I go to office, I'm going to check the business building areas in the other buildings. When I go to office, this building, if I issue another supplemental business assessment notice using 18,272 times $9 per square feet, owner will get a really big annual rental value. We did not do that. But your suggestion is $9 overall blended is fair for this business, following the realty assessment using 18,272 square feet area. But we don't use the 18,272
Okay.
area for the business,
So
even though we could have.
what I'm suggesting to you is that you're saying that somehow if you did something, we would end up with a large increase. But we are seeing a large increase. We're seeing an increase of 51.5% on the BA cycle over cycle. There's nothing that's happened to that building that would indicate that that's appropriate. So by using the $9 blended just for this premise, which seems reasonable, that constitutes a 9.3% increase, which would be in line with the neighborhood average of say 8% or whatever it is for the downtown. So we don't think an increase of 51.5% for the BA cycle over cycle is appropriate.
But we are talking about the rental rate. What should be the proper rental base ARV for? We are not talking about any percentage here. We are talking about which rate should be appropriate for this business.
Okay.
$13.41 or $9
So
per square
if it increased by 51.5%, what do you suppose the base net rent was for the ARV in the last cycle?
But we really want to talk about what is the comparables and those ones, but we cannot go
Are
to
you
the
suggesting that it
jargon
went
of
from
the-
$7 to $13 from cycle over cycle? That seems exhaustive.
I think maybe what we could do is we'll look at the comps that you have provided. And when we get to your information,
Sure.
it'd be very helpful if we saw comps as
Right.
well. I think there's a few other things that we need to clarify first,
Sure.
though. Mr. McIntyre, do you have questions for Ms. Tinnabar?
I have one question. So the second floor is a recording studio,
Yes.
so it's not a separate premise ID.
It could be, but it is not under this bid number because it has 5 floors, as I remember. There's one of the top one is the recording studio. This bid is only represent which premises used for the Palomino Club, but the Palomino Club has a basement also. They use for the basement also Palomino Club, but some reason we decided not to license the business in the entire all the.
It's all occupied
floors.
by the Palomino Club.
It's all Palomino Club, but I know they have the one permit for the recording studio. I don't know that business still there or they are not there. I really don't know. I did not inspect this property. I did not work on this property recently. But I did have this property recent realty appeal. But that's why I kind of know a little bit more. It has the floors and also $9 overall blended we use for entire building. Then it is, why my suggestion is, it is not fair to use $9 here.
But even as far as the basement is concerned, wouldn't you have a separate premise ID with a separate rate?
We do, but we don't, that premise ID did not have the bid. We don't link those premises the way we license the business there. It's something we need to look for. It has the different premises for all the floors, but this bid only represent one premise ID.
But that's only the main floor.
That's only the main floor, which
Yeah,
is this case.
In other submissions, we've seen Dunn's Bakery, for example, having separate premise
Because
IDs.
it's a single tenant in there. We have that discrepancy. I know what Mr. McIntyre is telling us. We have a discrepancy. Some businesses, when we inspect the property, we license the business in the main floor and the basement both. Some businesses, I think some technical reasons, we only license the only main floor. Consider the basement or also the kind of throw-in permits, the facility, amenities the business to operate. They keep it blended. I know that we had at this discrepancy. I'm aware.
I'm confused, but
I know.
That's fine.
It is a confusing factor. I totally agree.
okay, thank you.
Ms. Davis?
Just a really quick question. Looking at where your comparables are, obviously I don't go to a lot of nightclubs. It's not obvious, but I don't. Anyway, where is this one located on Main Street? Like, is it right by the,
That's the art gallery Maybury.
Yeah.
It's there.
Okay.
It's a kind of corner.
so it's kind of close to Rory and Valentine?
No, it's 436 Main Street. This is the next to our building.
No, it's on the other side of
Other
the street.
side. Yeah, that's the other one. The Maybury
By
building. Yeah,
Mayberry.
Okay.
by Maybury.
Gallery.
I know where it
Yeah.
is.
And then
Right.
it's a little patio
Yeah.
and the building itself.
Yes.
I know where it is then. Okay, thank you. I was just trying to figure out relationship to your comps.
I too find this very confusing, and I'm not all right with that. I find this really inconsistent compared to the last property. We're charged with putting a value on here, and we're having a lot of trouble understanding how this is done. Does the Palomino Club operate the recording studio?
I think no. That's that. It's
So
not.
it's a separate business. that
It's a
operates.
separate business.
So why aren't we seeing at least two
But-
premise IDs with two separate business assessments?
But that's the other recording studio. They did not appeal for the BA. Then we cannot include. This is the only business.
So they do get, oh, okay, so
Yeah.
they do get a separate business
separate.
assessment.
Yeah, separate business assessment.
We're only dealing with the
Palomino
main
Club.
floor.
Palomino Club only. But the main floor, Palomino Club, also Palomino Club, I never been there, but I know Palomino Club use the basement bar and the club. It is the main floor and the basement is the actual Palomino
And the
Club.
third floor has been vacant forever. And
Yes.
the second floor has a small recording studio and has been vacant largely since 2012, which is why we apply a blended rate on the entirety of the building, because you wouldn't just rent the third floor and not the main floor. It's
But for our purposes here today,
right.
It's-
without
we
requiring-
are dealing with a business assessment of only the main floor, not the basement, just the main floor.
correct.
Yes.
Okay, then the second question is, are we dealing with the main floor and an adjoining parking lot? Or just the structure itself?
That's the, we are only today dealing with just the Palomino Club business assessment only. We don't deal with any parking lot or anything. It's the reality
Despite
information.
who
Yeah.
owns that parking lot?
Yes.
And when you refer to the parking lot, are you talking about the area that is just north of the building that is used as a patio? Yes.
Yes, but it is included. It is this $13.41 when we send the Palomino Club business assessment out there. We consider Palomino Club has a patio. We consider Palomino has a basement, which is used in the Palomino Club. And actually, but we only use to calculate the ARV, only the main floor rent. We consider that the patio and the basement as an added amenity to the business. That's why we are not sending $9 per square feet. We are sending $13.41 per square feet, which is more advantage for the owner than us. Actually, if we consider all the area, it is higher. It will be-
So are no restaurant patios or bar patios a part of business assessment? They are not. They're
No,
excluded from business
we are
assessment.
excluding, but we consider as that is the added amenity, that patio will give you extra kind of attraction to people to come to the business than the no patio.
So you are accounting for its presence in the rent then?
We are not directly applying the
You're
rent.
not applying
the
the square
rent,
footage, but
but-
you're boosting the rent because it has a patio.
Yes, we kind of consider amenity, the better quality, better location type.
And by what means do you determine how much the patio boosts the value?
It's a very minimal. It is a very minimal. Because we have a we have a hard time finding direct comparable. It's really hard to find the apple to apple. We sometimes bring red apple, green apple, white apple, and we try to consider those ones. Then we have to talk about why red apple is better than the green apple.
So
But
on one
that
hand,
kind
though,
of
you
thing.
said that the rent is increased because you know that there is a patio. You've also said that it's a minimal amount. Your comparables that you draw on to justify your 1341,
Yeah.
do any of them have a patio?
As my knowledge, they don't have patio, and also they don't do the similar type of business operation. I try to find the real clubs to use for as a rent comparables. Most of the club owned and operated by owners. Then it is not the trend. When I just go and find something somewhat similar to the square footage, that's why most of the comparables 5,000 area. That's all I could do in this instance.
Okay. Mr. Story, your information, please.
Sure, yes, okay. Very quickly, this is 436 Main Street, Palomino Club. It's been the last 3 iterations of this building have been, it was Whiskey Dick's, it was the Empire, so it has been a bar for a number of years now. Again, it's a 3-story building. It's classified as a grade 2 historic building. And again, we, in the realty assessment, we agreed as a general principle that the appropriate rate for this building across the entire gross leasable area was $9 per square foot. So I recognize that we are isolating one part of this building now, but I don't think it's appropriate to say, well, it has a patio, so that will drive a higher rate per square foot, or what have you. I'm suggesting that a rate of $9 per square foot over the entirety of this property is appropriate, and that does capture, though we're not looking at them, it does capture the second and third floor. And so when we take that premise area of 5,705 square feet, we apply a blended rate of $9 per square foot. Again, this is a Class 2 heritage building in the middle of downtown, none of its own real parking, so to speak of. A rate of $9 per square foot is reasonable. We have to look at a market view of this property. What would somebody going into this property be likely to offer? What would they bid in order to get into that space? So we believe that $9 per square foot is appropriate, and that's consistent with our submission at the realty appeal, during the realty appeal, which was accepted. And again, I can't stress this enough, but the current assessment that the city's suggesting constitutes a 51.5% increase over the last business assessment. There's nothing in the market that would say that a grade 2 heritage building that's operating as a nightclub in the middle of downtown would see that kind of increase in terms of its rent. We simply have not seen that. So instead, I'm suggesting $65,280. And again, for interest sake, that's a 9% increase, which is in line with the market and which follows the decision on the realty. So that is our position.
Ms. Denaroy?
We already talked a lot about this property. I think I don't have.
Worn out.
Yeah.
Mr. McIntyre?
I have no questions.
Ms. Davis?
I do have a question. Business assessment and realty assessment are similar, but they are different, and who's levied it is different. So you've used the blended rate that was used in the realty.
Correct.
And that's your argument. So I guess 2 questions. What is the rental rate for the recording studio since the realty was blended? And then secondly, what do you have any comparables of clubs or restaurants or anything in this area?
Unfortunately, I don't. Restaurants would distort this number because they tend to have a higher lease rate. Restaurants would be higher than nightclubs generally. Nightclubs are sort of their own animal. They're only open for X
But there's
amount.
other nightclubs in the.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think of like
Exchange
433 across the street is the
Right.
old bank. That would actually be a perfect comp, but I don't have
Okay,
the lease details for it, so I don't know.
okay.
So no, I followed our realty submission, and I don't know what the rent is at the recording studio. That's a
Because
good
by
question.
saying it's blended, it
Right.
must mean, I'm guessing is that they're all different
Well, it was
rental rates for the 3 floors.
a blended rate that was used by the city
Mhm.
in order to develop the realty assessment, and we accepted that blended rate at the board. So we're continuing to apply that, and it doesn't seem reasonable to sort of isolate one premise and say, well, it should command a huge premium. We seem to believe that the blended rate is most appropriate.
Thank you.
Mr. Story, would you not agree with me that at the realty, when you look at a building like this,
Mhm.
the realty of people,
Yeah.
you're probably looking at different rents for the 3 different floors,
Yes, that are blended into one rate over the entire.
blended into.
Yeah.
In business assessment, we're only looking at one floor.
Correct.
So we would want to draw on, hopefully, if we knew
Right.
what the rent had been in the realty discussion, that main floor rent, which would be something higher than the blended rent, because if it's blended at 9, main floor is the highest, and there's something lower,
Right.
something lower
Right.
above. So surely
But
the
you wouldn't
rent
rent.
that should be picked would
You
be
wouldn't rent the
higher than
main-
$9.
You wouldn't rent the main floor without getting the basement as well. So it's a bit odd to isolate one, and that's not exactly how the market behavior would work. You'd look at a blended rate because you have.
And yet we've seen, like in the previous at Guns,
Mhm.
the basement has a separate.
Those are
IP.
two distinct premises where the
Here,
city.
we're only looking at the main floor as an IP.
Yeah. No, that's true, yeah. To be certain, but we are suggesting that the increase is exorbitant.
Is it conceivable that the amount was wrong before?
Potentially, but I don't believe it to be, but sure, I mean, that's a good point, but I don't think it was wrong before. I think that it's fairly difficult to, I think there's a limited market for people who want to operate a nightclub where they can't do any interior alterations. The nightclub business is effectively predicated on changing the interior every 3, 4, 5 years, or whatever the case may be, rebranding. So heritage designation, in my mind, might limit the top end of the kind of rents that you might expect in a nightclub.
And did you check the comps that Ms. Tanawara provided?
I've just seen them today for the first time.
I
So.
see, okay. And none of these comps are actually bars? That's all my questions. Thank you. So, 436 Main Street, so we're moving on to 661 Wall Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property address 661 Wall Street, business assessment ID 40330, business name Long and McFade Music Instruments, property owner Long Holdings Inc. This property originally we used base ARV as $12.38. Today I'm reducing to $11 per square feet. This is in line with the recommendation we make for Board of Revision level, realty level. And today I'm making a recommendation to reduce bid ARV to $165,000. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And we are accepting that recommendation.
Any questions?
I have no questions.
I don't know either.
So, a bit of a question here.
Sure.
So we're now on Wall Street. This building is essentially like a warehouse style building.
Yes.
This is where it's along McQuaid. This is musical instruments. It's a retail area.
But it's a nice warehouse, nicely done music instrument.
And it's at 11. You're saying the bar on Main Street should be 9.
completely different. And Long McQuaid's been there for a number of years. It's another one that I frequent. It's also been redone in the last 10 years or so. So it's a large, good quality retail space selling musical instruments. So.
And the 11 that you're drawing here is from these comps?
And I put the comps, but this is $11 is the recommendation to the realty. I'm kind of presenting the realty recommendation. Both parties agree.
More so from the realty than from the
Yeah,
contest. Okay.
yeah, it's a kind of flow through.
All right, thank you. That brings us to 905 Portage Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property address 905 Portage Avenue, business assessment ID 35500, business name AM Foods Fair number 1, owner is Celico Inc. Property has 3 premises. We have main floor and mezzanine.
Sorry, which, we're at
905 Portage Avenue.
905 Portage. One under, yeah, okay, that's why I'm confused. Okay. Sorry, carry on.
Okay, sure. And I believe the other one is a mezzanine. So the main floor, basement, and mezzanine, because it's a one occupant in the property and it is an own occupied property. The business was licensed to the 3 premises and it has a different rental rates, $11.60 for the main floor, $1.82 for the basement, $5.21 for the mezzanine area. Overall blended $9.12. Below are my rent comparables. Rent comparables are similar type of either Food Fair or the Giant Tiger and this type of operation. Lowest rent I found $10.31 and the highest is $12. Today I'll make a recommendation. Overall blended $9.12 appropriate in here. Also total bid ARV 167,340 to be confirmed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Stewart.
Yeah, okay, so you did mention that this property is owner occupied, correct?
Yes.
And would it be safe to say that this is a sort of a family grocer as opposed to a national or?
This is a food fair.
It's a food fair?
Yeah.
Okay, now, but that is a small family operation, correct?
I don't know about actually food fairs. I'm seeing under different owners. Then I don't know about what type of thing, but it's a smaller level of grocery store.
Right, so can we agree that you mentioned something about a Giant Tiger, but it wouldn't be equivalent to a Giant Tiger because that's a national chain and the rents are generally higher because there's a higher degree of fixturing that's required and adherence to a brand standard. Is that safe to say?
I think if you go to 839 Cavalier Drive, it is a food fair, right? They pay $12 per square feet.
Yeah. And that's a very short. That's a very short lease, correct?
That's a very short lease, and those are actually I don't go with the national big Walmart type things. Those are the similar type of operation, and the smaller rental rate is size vary, and the rental rate vary, $10.31 to $12. That's why I'm thinking $11.60. Only the main floor, overall blended $9.12 is appropriate. I cannot compare 100%.
Right. But just so I'm clear, of these comps, are any of them, or are the majority of them, things like Safeway? Is there Giant
No.
Tigers? They're not?
No Safeways, but
Okay.
there are some Giant Tigers. Giant
Giant
Tiger
Tigers.
is the lower end of chains.
Okay.
Even though it's a chain,
It's a national chain.
it is a operation. We cannot compare to Safeway to Giant Tiger. But
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think those are my questions. Thanks.
Sector?
Just one question, did any of your comparables have mezzanines?
I think, give me 1 second. I cannot tell by the name. No, by the address.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question.
I have no questions, thank you.
Can you give me the list of who is in each of your premises?
Oh, sorry, I don't bring it, but I know I only rely on Food Fair and Giant Tiger. I think Ellis Avenue property is neither Giant Tiger or Food Fair, but it's a smaller operation. I can't remember.
So the largest one here is at 225 Vermilion Road. What is that?
Giant Tiger. It's very close to the daycare. After the Canadian Tire and everything, it's a Giant Tiger there.
Okay. So that's at $12.
Yeah.
So we got 11,000 square feet as the food fair on Cavalier.
It's $12.
The other $12 one is 957 Portage, which is what?
957. It should
It's a
be
little farther west than the subject.
Yeah, it should be Food Fair. I remember I put the Food Fair rates together.
Well, it wouldn't be a food fair because it's so close to the
Other
subject.
one. No, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, that's all my questions. Mr. Story.
Thank you very much. Okay, 905 Portage Avenue. Again, we've established this is indeed a food fair. So this is, we'll call this the Wolseley or St. Matthews neighborhood. I believe it's actually Wolseley on one side of Portage, St. Matthews on the other. It's Portage and Burnell, and that's a one-story grocery store. The building was constructed in 1951, and according to the city of Winnipeg, has an effective age of 1951, which would indicate to us that no permitted work has been taken on this building and that it is indeed true to its vintage. So it's a mid-century grocery store in the corner of Portage and Burnell. We've got 18,350 square foot of leasable area. There's 8,925 square feet of main floor space, 8,925 square feet of basement space, and 500 square foot mezzanine space. Okay, so now the modeled rent, as it was developed by the city, is $11.60 per square foot. Now, the only premise that we are contesting the modeled rent for is the main floor. The basement has been applied a rate of $1.82, and I think that's fine. The mezzanine is at $5.21. That seems appropriate as well. So we've looked to the market to determine a fair market rent for the main floor area. On page 3, you can see my rental comps. Now, it is sort of difficult to find an older building with a we don't want to put chain retailers in here as much as we can avoid it, because as I sort of alluded to, there are different standards that have to be adhered to. There's different kinds of fixturing that'll be amortized over a lease. So we want to look at smaller operations as best we can. So I've chosen these 5. The one that I've put the most weight on is on Elizabeth Road. That's actually an old IGA that's appears to be independently managed, though it is in Windsor Park, so that's likely an objectively superior area. Though I suppose a smaller grocer, the desirability of the area would be contingent on the amount of residential or foot traffic or what have you. So I think that that's a very good comp. When I take my all of my comps together, I come to an average rent of $8.31 per square foot and a median of $8.50. And so when I apply that, again, accepting the mezzanine rate that the city has proposed and accepting the basement rate that the city has proposed, I come to a total ARV of $139,560. And once again, this is just based on the space, the main floor space. We believe $850 is more reasonable, and respectfully submit that the ARV for this cycle ought to not exceed 139,560. Thanks.
I don't have questions. Thank you.
So the only issue, just to clarify, is the base rent.
The base rent for the main floor, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Davidson?
Just a couple of questions. If you pointed out the IGA and the square footage and type is similar to the subject.
Right.
What are the other comps you
Sure.
have?
Yeah, so the first one is it's a smaller grocery store in Crestview. So it's got good parking. It's next to a number of multifamily buildings, which is good. And it's smaller. So of course by economies of scale, as the square footage is lower, the rent is generally higher. It's in a neighborhood shopping center. Capel is more of a corner store. I pulled it out afterwards, and it doesn't make a material difference. But that 555, I would say that it's not appropriate. It's too old. It's more of a corner store, so it's not a great comp for what we're looking at. Again, Elizabeth Road is the IGA. Jefferson Avenue is an old what was that called? Market Fresh IGA. It was an IGA, and now Lucky's has moved in, so it's a Asian food store. And Donald Street that's one that I work on. It's Family Foods, and I believe that rent is probably a fair bit higher because it's one of the only grocery stores in the downtown, and it's on the main floor of a large apartment building. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have no questions. Thank you. (693) Taylor Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 693 Taylor Avenue is the property address. Property business ID 18158. Business name Kise Furniture. Owners Kise Furniture Studio Limited. Property has 2 premises. And the main floor, and both are main floors. One is front and one is rear. As my understanding, I'm not 100% sure. We use the $12.02 for the main area, and the back area $3.93. I'm following the same recommendation as the real recommendation. We reduced to $10.32 and $3.93. It's a keep the rent. Today I'm asking to reduce the rental value to $365,640. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
365, sorry?
$365,640.
640. Your blended rate was what?
$12.99, which is original, but now it is lower.
What are you recommending on the ARV?
Yeah,
Or
she's
the
just
rent?
calculating.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, my calculator. 11.60 overall blended ARV per square feet.
Yeah, what is it? Sorry.
$11.60. 11.60
1160.
overall blended.
Yielding 365,440.
640. It's in the bottom.
Sorry.
It's in the bottom.
Can't read my own writing here.
Sorry.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Question?
Thank you for the rec, but I'd like to proceed. The realty, you're aware, just for the sake of argument here, that the realty decision was based on the blended rate of 860 a square foot, correct?
I did not see something different than what I'm presenting today.
Oh, okay. We can look at it in my evidence. Now, you're suggesting that the second premises, that's a basement. You're aware of that, correct?
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Have you visited this property at all?
I visited this property many times, but not for inspections.
Okay. All right. And again, this No, that's fine. Okay, I think those are my questions. Thanks.
Mr. McIntyre?
I have no questions.
Ms. Davidson?
I have none either, thank you.
The premise area, whether it is first ID or the second, is that wholly and solely occupied by Kisei Furniture?
Yes.
Are you aware of any lessees within that building?
As I know, there were subtenants in there long ago, but I don't know what they are still there. But subtenants, we usually don't license. That's the bit in between the tenant and the subtenant agreement. Those subtenants usually do the similar type of thing. They come and do some business and go.
Explain why a subtenant would not be licensed.
They are very temporary, and they kind of come and use the space from the owner. The owner pay the business tax. If there is a proportionate, they kind of charge from the subtenant. As a practice, we don't license the subtenants because of the temporary nature. It's kind of how to call it, it's a pop-up shop type subtenant. Then we don't license them.
And you know that if there was a subtenant in this building, they are temporary, short-term?
At this time, I don't know there are subtenants in there, but I know there were some subtenants there. I don't know at this point there is a subtenant, but we don't consider subtenant to be licensed or issue the business tax. 100%, we don't issue any business tax notices for subtenant.
Mr. Story?
Okay, so we're at 693 Taylor. This is the corner of Taylor and Pembina. It's the Kisei space. I think you're probably all aware of it. So the leasable area of the main floor is 25,760 square feet, with an additional 5,750 square feet of basement area. The building was originally constructed in 61 with an effective age of 1970. So what we've done here is we've followed the realty appeal, which was accepted in full, and I don't believe it was challenged further by the city. So I've included the original submission. These are the original rents on page 3 that we've used as comparables. We had this is an owner-occupied premise, so we have to look to the market to see what would be the most likely market rent. So I would say if you look between, say, comp number 22, that's a home decor space. Number 17 is furniture. 14 is home decor. At any rate, we came to an average of 881 and a median of 890 for the main floor. But we do recognize that this is a good location and it's high quality space. So we used 950 and that was accepted by the board and was not challenged further. Now, even though the city is using 393 per square foot for the basement space, our evidence suggested that a rate of $5 per square foot is likely more appropriate. So we have applied that. So with those inputs, we come to, as I mentioned earlier, blended rate of $868 over the entirety of the leasable area. That's broken down as $950 per square foot for the main area. That's 25,760 square feet, and $5 per square foot for the higher quality basement space, which is 5,750 square feet, giving us a total ARV of $350,580. So we respectfully submit that the BA for this cycle not exceed $350,580. And I have included the Board of Revision order along with our original submission that was accepted by the board in full and not contested by the city. Thank you very much.
I don't have questions. Thank you.
I just have one question of the assessor.
Okay.
How would you treat the McDonald's and a Walmart? Two different tenants.
Yes, we license the McDonald's.
Pardon me?
We license the McDonald's.
Oh, you don't? They don't have an ARV then?
They do have ARV.
So then you do assess the subtenant.
It's not the subtenant. It's two different. It's really hard to. It has a defined space. It is a defined. Then if the case has a subtenant is selling curtains or something like that, they don't have a defined area as for them to use. It's a kind of pop-up shop type subtenants. We don't license the pop-up shop type subtenants. Same with the salons, because the most of the salons they leave the chair for the another hairdresser to come and use it. Then we don't use that the chair rental to the another person. It's the same thing here. We don't license. If the Costco has that kind of pop-up shops, we don't consider as a subtenant. But the McDonald's has a permanent structure. They operate as a McDonald's. That's why we license the McDonald's.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question.
Ms. Davidson?
I have no questions, thank you.
Nora? And then lastly, 397 William Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property address 397 William Avenue, business assessment ID 36905, business name Young's Trading Inc., property owner YTC Enterprises Limited. This is an owner-occupied property. This has a main floor and the basement, and we have used $10.88 for the main floor, and the basement $3.75. We don't use the air conditioning in the basement and neither heat. So today I'm asking to confirm the ARV as a 195,108. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Story?
Okay. Okay, so this premise is owner occupied, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so the assessment is modeled based on, in some way on these comps, is that correct?
Not only discounts, but the model.
On the model, okay.
This is the market model range.
Okay, and for these comps, are any of these in the same vicinity as the subject property?
Not exactly, but 480 McGregor, it's kind of similar. It's not the exactly same.
What is 408 McGregor?
It's a grocery store, as I remember. I'm not 100%
Is that
sure.
the Safeway at McGregor and Mountain?
It can be because of the 8,640.
Right, and that has a large parking lot, correct?
It should be. I did not check the parking lot in here.
Okay, so that's a grocery store. Are any of the comps 2 through 5, or any of those grocery stores?
Those are grocery stores.
They are grocery stores.
But I cannot tell which grocery store it's because I did not bring the name for all the locations.
Okay. When you selected these comps yourself?
These ones, yeah, randomly, yes, I do. I run the comp search.
You did, okay. And when you were inspecting them to ensure they're appropriate, do they all have parking lots?
I know you are running to the parking issue in the William Young's Trading. I know the owner has a different parking lot. Those are we considering the realty appeal.
I'm sorry, say that again?
The parking lot,
Yeah.
This is the Young Trading,
Yeah.
has a separate parking lot in the Eugene Street.
Right.
I know all of those ones. We
Right.
consider all of those issues when we do the realty appeal.
Okay.
I know.
So if we're looking at the potential market rent of this premise solely, 397 William Avenue, this parcel, this roll number has no parking associated with it whatsoever. Is that correct?
They do have parking, but not in this part.
They had to buy another lot on Elgin, and there was some dispute with City Hall because it didn't fit with the secondary plan for the neighborhood, and it was almost disallowed in 2015. Are you aware of that?
I don't know about all the dispute. I know about this Young's Trading has an adjacent parking lot owned by the same owner.
Would you say that this is, for a grocery store, do you think this is an inferior location to these comps that you've provided?
I cannot say concern.
Okay, I think, yeah, if we don't know what these premises are, I think those are all my questions. Thank you.
I have no questions.
Ms. Davidson,
I have none either, thank you.
did you say that all of these are grocery stores, all your comps? I'm wondering, what grocery stores are on 80 Rory or say at 295 Portage Avenue?
80 Rory might not be. Is it the small grocery store? I can't remember. I'm not 100% kind of confident about telling about which grocery store. That's my fault. I should have bring the name. I did not bring the business name. It's totally my mistake.
Okay. Mr. Story.
Thank you very much. Okay, so again, as we've established, this is the Young's Trading on the corner of William and Ellen. It's a one-story masonry building. It's being used as a specialty supermarket. And I will stress again that there is no parking associated with this roll number, but the owner does own a separate parcel that's one sort of parcel over on Ellen, I believe. So, but for all intents and purposes, this premise does not have any parking associated with it. There's some rear loading here, and let's see. Right. So effectively, our submission to the Board of Revision, again, which I've included here as an appendix to my submission, was accepted in full and not disputed further by the city. So we have continued to apply a net rent of $9.50 per square foot for the main floor. You can see on page, I believe it's page 16 for our original submission. We have some grocery comps there, but they're on Stafford, Portage, River. I will suggest that this is likely something of an inferior location. And one of the major issues that face grocers is that they do need a great deal of parking. That's sort of fundamental to the grocery business. So we ended up with I believe the average was somewhere around $12. The average was $12.43, median was $11.72. So we did downward adjust that for $9.50 for the main floor, which was accepted and not disputed further. Now the city is suggesting the basement ought to be at $3.75. In our original submission, we used $4, and we continue on with that. So again, over the 11,443 square feet, we are using $9.50. And over the basement storage area, which again is unheated and has no air conditioning, we're using $4 per square foot. So in the grand, once we apply everything together, we come to a final ARV for this cycle of $181,400. And again, this is based on the realty decision that was accepted and not disputed. So we do respectfully submit that the business assessment should follow the realty assessment and that it ought not to exceed $181,400. Thank you very much.
Mr. Navarro?
I have only one question. Your page number 16
Yeah,
are the comparables, right?
the original comps that were used in the realty,
Okay,
yes.
your average and median, both are, average is $12.43 and median is $11.72.
Yeah, that's correct.
And is there any measurement you guide to reduce with adjustment for downwards adjustment?
So you're saying, why did we, if we're seeing 1172 for a median, why did we go to 950?
Yes.
That's just I'm just using our best judgment.
Okay.
We know that a grocery store on River, Sherbrooke, and Phillips is going to be superior to William and Ellen. That's it's a destination location to be certain, But in terms of the broader market, there's utility for that specific owner. But if that space was put on the market, I think 950 might actually be a bit optimistic, to be quite honest with you, especially with no parking.
McIntyre?
I have no question.
Ms. Davidson?
I just wanted to clarify, when you said that when you brought forward the realty appeal,
Yeah.
that it wasn't disputed by the city, do you mean that they accepted it at the appeal or they didn't
I mean, it wasn't
pursue
appealed
it
further
to
to
the
the municipal
municipal
board.
board?
That's correct.
Okay, and then just quickly on page 16,
Yep.
on your comparables, you mentioned, I think I heard that a couple of them were grocery stores?
Yeah, I believe these are all grocers, or I think that one on the river might be a more of a corner store just based on the square
But
footage.
they're all kind of food stores.
Neighborhood food related corner
Okay.
store type.
Thank you.
I have no questions. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
That concludes our hearing. We will deliberate and we will supply the orders forthwith. My registered mail. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.